Snipers, you have to see what's happening in the cryptocurrency market today. Is we are going to see futures market open up in a few hours, and Bitcoin is inside of this symmetrical triangle. The bulls are holding the $34,788 support level. It is not a coincidence, once again, that if we go into the more micro time frames, like the 15-minute chart, this is the exact level we are starting to see volume come in, and Bitcoin is holding this extremely key support level. And as I've mentioned before, if this door opens up, there is a potential we could see 24,000 US dollars. We do have this market structure support level that we could also address on the 4-hour chart. Notice how this symmetrical triangle here, which is now extending upon this initial formation, which typically indicates indecision in the market. When we see a market structural formation like this not play out to either side, we had this bull trap initially, and then we had this bear trap, and now you can see we are forming this larger structure, and it is starting to almost look like a descending triangle. However, we have to realize that this $34,788 level is the key support, and even if we were to look at this as a descending triangle, let's say we were to just assume that the base of this triangle is at the $34,788 level, then that would give us some breathing room to understand the fact that if we breach this level on 4-hour and 1-hour candles, that's a confirmation that we're most likely going to see the $31,000 level tested. And then, of course, if the $31,000 level breaks, that would be the confirmation that we're going to see 24,000. And so what I like about this format is we do have this 25% downside below 31,000, but if we were to assume 34,788 is going to hold, that up until the point of support in which we would call the last shots for Bitcoin to have any sort of bullish bias would be a less than 10% downside potential. And so I really believe that dollar cost averaging a position within the $34,800 range all the way down to the bottom of this range where we have this new market structural support, I think that's a very wise decision. We know that there is accumulation occurring here at this level, and so why not participate in the market action when it's occurring, which it's obvious that there is accumulation occurring because we go into the 15-minute chart, for example. Every time we've come to a major level, the psychology behind how price action has acted at these levels indicates that we are seeing accumulation. As we came to test 38,000, we created this new market structural resistance. We saw a lot of buyers come in, but there weren't sellers in sight. And so the bulls weren't outmatched by the bears. They just stopped doing what they were already going to do, allowing the price to come down a little bit more, the path of least resistance, sideways to a little bit higher. And then we see the exact same thing occur here at the major support where we came to test 34,788. We formed this low, and then we came down to test it again. We formed a higher low. And this is the weekend, of course. We see a lot less institutional participation during the weekend. And that's why this is a very important video, because I want to talk about what I'm watching as we start to see futures markets open later today, because during the pre-market action, based on how the futures markets react to the pre-market, that's going to give us the early signs of where institutions are hedging their bets. And there are two things I'm specifically going to be watching when we start to see futures open. That's the DXY, of course, and then gold, because we're monitoring this gold to Bitcoin chart with this cup and handle. And so I want to talk about why I'm going to be monitoring this. And then, of course, we'll look at Ethereum and some other altcoins as we always do on the Snipers channel. You guys are watching the Snipers channel. My name is Naeem Al-Ubaidi. I hope you enjoy this Sunday update. I really love Sundays in the market. Before pre-market opens, you have a chance to look at charts, kind of determine your plays in the market and what you're going to be watching as we start to see institutional participation. And it's really a beautiful day when it comes to a trader's routine, right? The Sunday pre-market hours, at least for me here in Eastern Standard Time or Pacific Standard Time, depending on where I'm at on the, either coast, it's truly a beautiful time for me. So I love Sunday. I love making these updates for you guys, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So let's just dive straight into this analysis for Bitcoin right now, notice how our key support here at 34,788 has been maintaining itself, and that's a very positive sign. Now, we do have this market structural support here, and it is a low with a higher low. However, we do have this low that occurred here initially before forming this next higher low, which makes this almost like a descending triangle formation. And if we pay attention to the bodies of these daily candles, notice how the $34,788 level really is the actual support level more than this area down here, because down here we've only really seen wicks. And so that tells me that there's a lot of buy pressure down here. We can see that on the 6-hour chart, of course. Notice how we have all of this buy pressure down at the $30,000 level. And so this is the reason over the last few weeks I've been extremely cautious to say that we're going to see continued downside, because so far, every time we've come down to the major support levels, we've shown good price action on the rescue operation side of things. And being the umpire, we have to look at both sides. And so when we look at the bearish side, though, we are finding continued resistance, and it's descending resistance, which starts to put this descending triangle into the equation. So really, I think that to play this safe, what you want to do is you want to monitor the $34,800 level. I think that is the key area, in my opinion, to watch, because if we start to show weakness below this area, we already had one daily candle close fully below this area, but it was a bullish candle with a bullish tail. And so, at this point, as we start to approach the apex of this second structure, I think this is the structure that will break. Typically, when an initial structure doesn't break, it shows indecision, and another structure will form. But usually by the second structure, we will see some price action to the upside or downside. And so I think 38,000 at this point is still going to be my confirmation for upside to 50,000, and that is based on what we've seen in the past when these death cross have occurred with the abnormal price activity that Bitcoin usually sees, kind of like the antithesis of what traditional markets would see during a death cross. Bitcoin always being that kind of antithesis, right? And so, we've seen in the past, after a major rally, 40% push to the upside. So I think above 38,000, 50,000 is very likely. But at this point, with this triangle starting to look like a descending triangle, we really need to monitor that $34,800 level. We were able to rescue it last night during the Sunday opening. But as we start to see the afternoon and the evening come in and futures open, we're going to start to see where institutions are placing their bets. And so I think that's going to be the determining factor of where this is going to head. But, I think traditional markets are extremely overvalued right now. The S&P 500 sitting at new highs, and so when we look at price to earning ratios for, cryptocurrency, projects like MakerDAO, for example, sitting at like a 17 PE ratio, the lower the better. And so with the S&P 500 over 40, I think the crypto market is certainly an attractive market right now, especially with how inflation is looking. So we'll look at traditional markets in just a second. But once again, I don't want to keep beating the tree here. And over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the $34,788 level and 38,000. And so you guys know that's important. And with Ethereum, we kind of have this channel forming between the 50-day and 100-day moving average. This is really just showing indecision. I think Ethereum is really waiting to see what Bitcoin is going to do, and that's when we're going to get the confirmation to the upside or downside. And so the support is going to be at 1980, the upside is going to be at 3450, and if we can get above the monthly open at 2,700, I think that's the confirmation we're going to see the upside. So, Ethereum is also in this very tight channel, really waiting for Bitcoin to make a move, but maintaining itself above 65,000 Satoshis still has the potential to be the stronger asset against Bitcoin. And then we look at the total cryptocurrency market cap chart. This weekly candle here that's about to close has yet to dominate and conquer this 20-week moving average. This would be the first full weekly candle closing below the 20-week moving average. I'm not going to be too concerned. We did kind of come here and try to test it, and we can argue that this was a test depending on how much of a bullish bias you want to have. And so for us to see maybe one weekly candle below this isn't a big deal, but next week's candle is definitely going to matter in my opinion. And so we'll have to monitor that. We want to get above the monthly open at 1.6 trillion there. And once again, I think Bitcoin's going to determine that move. Altcoins, very similar to Ethereum. You can see camping out here. Still very bullish in its macro trend. And so we'll continue to monitor the dominance levels. But because it's Sunday, the DXY, here's what I'm watching here for traditional markets. I know a lot of you guys enjoy our videos because of the traditional markets. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. By the way, we're going to be giving away a new book, Mastering Bitcoin. And so I've been working nonstop day and night over the last weekend to improve some things. We launched 9 new languages for our videos. If you guys speak any other languages, the links are in the description below. It would really help if you guys subscribe to those channels. But anyways, I want to talk about the traditional markets. So the DXY is in a potential reversal zone here. We already saw price action above the 20-week moving average. And so we have to address the fact that we have this potential inverse head and shoulder pattern forming here. And so, we've got this formation, and if we start to break back above this 20-week moving average, that could indicate a reversal in the dollar, and that would be a macro thesis that we'd have to start implementing into the other markets. If the DXY starts to come into a bullish trend on the macro, that changes the mindset when we're looking at other markets, because the dollar value, seeing volatility to the upside and strengthening, will certainly affect asset prices. And so if this starts breaking down, we could see the opposite effect of continued inflation with asset prices. So want to monitor this. I really want to see how this next week is going to look, because so far it looks like if we're going to see a continuation, it's going to have to happen sometime soon. So that's what I'm monitoring. And then gold, notice here how we have this just slightly downward price action that we saw over the last 2 weeks, but we've broken out of this major macro trend above home base here. I think that we're going to see a retest and come back to 2000 at some point or another. And that's going to be interesting to watch here with the gold to Bitcoin chart, because we have this potential cup and handle formation coming here with this resistance that dates back to the 2017 bottom for gold against Bitcoin. And we know the thesis has strengthened quite a bit since 2017. And so for us to breach back from the 2017 levels would be extremely surprising, but we do have a bullish pattern forming here. So we want to monitor this. It's going to be interesting to see, once again, over the next week to 2 weeks. I think we're going to start to get some answers to the direction things are going. And we're certainly in a transitionary phase right now, so we can't deny that. And with that being said, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. I wanted to get this quick Sunday update to you guys early before I can get some sleep finally. If you guys want to win one of my favorite books on investing, comment below and share this video, and you guys have a chance to win. Let me see. Jimmy says, Naeem is a man of his word. Oh, I think I received the Ray Dalio book as promised. Did we already choose somebody had a comment similar to that yesterday, I think. We sent out a ton of books. I think that's why we're having so many people to comment about the books, because I was like, am I on the wrong video? So Steven Sadikon says, can't wait for tomorrow's video. Let's aim the snipers on the charts. You want a book? Send me a message on Instagram. You want Mastering Bitcoin. This is like a textbook about Bitcoin and understanding every aspect of it. This was one of my first books that I read here by Andreas Antonopoulos. If you guys know who that is, very, very big OG in the crypto sphere. So go ahead and comment below and share this video. You'll have a chance to win. And with that, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you as we start to see futures markets open. Snipers out.